Hey there. We've all been there, right? Part of a project that just seems to drag on forever. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Agile and Scrum, a totally different and way more dynamic way of getting things done.
Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever spent months, maybe even years, pouring your heart into a big project only for it to launch and crickets? The world's moved on, customer needs have changed, and your brand new thing is already a bit behind the times. It's super frustrating, and it's exactly the problem Agile was created to fix. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to look at the old way versus the new way. And just so we're clear, this isn't some minor tweak in the process. We're talking about a fundamental shift, a whole new philosophy on how to build things. So on one side, you've got the classic waterfall model. You can think of it like building a house, right? You make a giant blueprint, you pour the foundation, you put up the walls, then the roof, all in a very strict step-by-step order. It's all planned out, there's tons of paperwork, and you don't really show the homeowner until it's finished. And then there's Agile. This is totally different. It's iterative, it's adaptive. You build a little bit, you show the customer, you get feedback, you adapt. The big takeaway here is you're constantly learning and building at the same time. So where did this whole idea come from? Well, you've got to go back to 2001. A group of 17 software developers got together at a ski resort in Utah, no joke, and they hashed out what they called the Agile Manifesto. And what they came up with was this tiny 68-word document that pretty much changed the game. And this is it. This is the core idea. It's not about throwing out the old rules entirely. It's about a shift in what we value more. It's a preference. And this whole philosophy is really built on 4 key values, so let's break them down. First up, people talking to each other is more important than any rigid process or a fancy tool. It's pretty straightforward, really. The best ideas, the best solutions, they happen when smart people can just talk to each other and solve problems, not when they're stuck following a pre-written script.
Value number 2, working software over all that paperwork. I mean, what's more valuable at the end of the day? A 100-page manual describing how something should work, or an actual product that your customer can use right now? The point is to give people something that works, not a binder full of plans.
All right, number 3 is a big one. It's about seeing your customer as a teammate, not some opponent you're negotiating against. Instead of trying to lock everything down in a contract from day one, you work together, side by side, throughout the whole project. That way, you build what they actually need, even if, and let's be honest, when, those needs change along the way. And the last one, number 4, is all about embracing change. Think about it. A rigid plan can totally trap you, forcing you to keep building something that you already know is wrong. Agile says, hey, change is inevitable. Let's build it into the process. And in the world we live in today, being able to change course like that, that's a superpower. Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy behind Agile. But an idea is one thing. How do you actually do it on a Monday morning with your team? Well, the most popular way, by a long shot, is a framework called Scrum. So what is Scrum? In a nutshell, it's a lightweight system for getting complex work done in these short, repeatable cycles called sprints. These are usually about 2 to 4 weeks long. And the whole thing stands on 3 pillars. Transparency, so everyone sees what's happening. Inspection, so you're constantly checking your work. And adaptation, so you can make changes on the fly. So to really wrap your head around Scrum, you just need to know 2 things. Who are the players on the field, and what's in their playbook? It's really that simple. Let's meet the team first. Okay, so on a Scrum team, there are 3 specific roles. You've got the product owner. Their job is to be the voice of the customer and decide what work needs to be done. Then you have the development team. These are the people who actually build the thing. They're a self-organizing group with all the skills they need to get the job done. And finally, you have the Scrum Master. Their job is to help the team run smoothly, kind of like a coach, clearing obstacles out of their way. They're not a boss in the old school sense. They're there to serve the team. All right, so we've got our team, but with all this flexibility, how do they keep track of everything? How does anyone know what's going on? That's where their tools come in. They're technically called artifacts, but really just think of them as the team's toolkit. The whole thing kicks off with the product backlog. This is like the master wish list for the entire project. Every single feature, idea, fix, or update goes on this list. And it's the product owner's job to own this list and keep it prioritized, making sure the most important stuff is always right at the top. Okay, but that master list is huge, right? You can't do it all at once. So at the start of every sprint, the team just grabs a small handful of items right off the top of that list.
And that becomes the sprint backlog. It's their focused mission for the next couple of weeks, a clear, achievable goal they've all agreed on.
And that leads us right into the real engine of Scrum, the sprint itself. This is the heartbeat of the whole process. This is the rhythm, that repeatable cycle of planning, doing, showing, and improving that actually gets things done and drives the project forward.
This timeline here shows you exactly how it works. So you start with sprint planning, where the team figures out what they can accomplish. Then every single day, they have a quick 15-minute check-in called the daily scrum to sync up. When the sprint's over, they hold a sprint review to actually demonstrate the working product to stakeholders. And to wrap it all up, they have a sprint retrospective, where the team talks about what went well, what didn't, and how they can improve. And then you do it all over again. So, after all that, is it worth it? Look, going agile can be a total game changer, but let's be real, it's not a silver bullet. You've got to understand the wins, but also the warnings that come with it. Let's break down the good and the, well, not so easy parts. On the plus side, the benefits are huge. You get things to your customers faster, they're happier because they're part of the process, and your team can pivot on a dime. Team morale often goes way up too. But, and this is a big but, the challenges are real. You're talking about a massive culture shift, away from top-down control. It requires incredible commitment from the team, and if you're not careful, the scope of the project can just keep growing. It's an amazing tool, but you really have to know how to use it right. And that really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. You can do all the meetings, you can have your backlogs and your sprints, but if your organization doesn't truly embrace the underlying values, trust, collaboration, transparency, then you're just going through the motions. So at the end of the day, the question you have to ask isn't just, are we doing agile? It's, are we actually being agile? Because that mindset, that's everything.